That's pretty good right there, huh? Pretty good. We'll give the babies a hand. That is for sure. You guys, put it on your calendar right now, March the 20th. That is a Thursday night. This is going to be something that if you genuinely want your home to change, if you're having difficulty perhaps communicating with your children or your children communicating with you, if you're having things that are going on within your home, I promise you, if you will attend this seminar, it will change the way you parent. It will change the way your children honor you and care for you. It will change the things about your home that you desire to be changed more than anything else. And so I promise you, please put that on your calendar. It is an amazing night. It is $20 a person, $30 a couple. Caring for your children during this time is included. Rachel and I have been to this before, and we're looking forward to caring for your children so that you can go to this seminar. And so we're going to tag team this and lead a team caring for your children. And so I hope that you will put it on your calendar, please. This is the best $30 you will ever spend. All right? So whenever you get the email this week and you get that link that's in there to sign up for this conference, go ahead and click that link, pay the money, and plan on that Thursday night. It is the best 2 hours that you will spend. I assure you of that. So you guys, please do this. It is absolutely phenomenal. It has changed the way that Rachel and I parent. It has improved and helped us take next steps forward in caring for our children and really not just addressing behavior modification, but really getting an opportunity to speak into the hearts of our kids. And so you guys, put this on your calendar. I cannot stress this enough. Please, please, please come that night. Well, you guys, it was the 1980 Winter Olympics. And the miracle on ice transcended sports. It came at the height of the Cold War, when Americans were still suffering a crisis of confidence. You see, the Soviets had invaded Afghanistan, and they were on the march across the world. The Soviet Union appeared to be getting stronger, while the United States appeared to be in decline. The U.S. economy was gripped by gas lines during a period of rising prices, little growth, and increasing unemployment. Iran was holding our diplomats hostage and was burning American flags. Then suddenly, a band of college students wearing the red, white, and blue restored our confidence. At Madison Square Garden a few weeks before the Lake Placid Games, the Soviets demolished this American squad 10-3 in a pre-Olympic exhibition game. If the two teams had played 20 times over, the Soviets would have certainly won 19 of those times. But not on that day. On that day when it mattered most, the United States prevailed. They took on the mighty Soviet Red Army and they won. And America changed. One man put it, it was more than a hockey game. It was us versus them. It was freedom versus communism. And we saw that we could defeat the Soviet Union on ice and began to believe that we could defeat it in the Cold War as well. Soon a new president stepped into the Oval Office and declared his plan to end the Cold War the same way the Lake Placid Games had ended. We win, they lose. And Americans believed it could happen. A little more than a decade, it did happen. You see, guys, this is the story of Rocky Balboa versus Ivan Drago, right? This is the story of a little kid who wants so badly to beat the bully in the class at the 50-yard dash on field day. This is the story of the underdog. It's the story of you and me, is it not? It's the story and the dream that we dream. Guys, after all the beatdowns we receive, after all the mocking and all the ridicule, it's the dream to come out on top and to be declared a victor. But you know, guys, there's more. There's another reason for the attraction to this story of the underdog. And if you would, please stand to your feet, and we're going to read 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 18 through 25. I'll read aloud. You follow along on the screens or on your Bible, on your phone or iPad, whatever form you desire. See, the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through its wisdom did not know him, God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. Jews demanded signs, and Greeks looked for wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified. It's a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. You guys go ahead and be seated. See, guys, the message of the cross, to summarize what I just read, the message of the cross, it actually impacts people in one of two ways. Number one, the message of the cross is silly to people who are far from God. People who are far from God, this message, it's silliness. It's foolishness. It's a pipe dream. But the second is it makes perfect sense to those who are being saved. In fact, the message of the cross is the power of God, is it not? Romans 1:16, Paul says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. You see, Paul, when he's writing the letter to Corinth, and he's also writing this letter to Rome and the Romans, he's helping the early church, and it also helps us tonight to see here that God's story reveals the truth about conventional wisdom. And the truth about conventional wisdom in our culture is that it is pretentious nonsense. Conventional wisdom in the culture in which we live is pretentious nonsense. What appears to simply be the truth, simply put, is not. People's success, people's wisdom, their victory, this American dream that is being pursued. In the words of the wisest man that ever walked this planet, his name was Solomon. You see, all of those things, when it comes to conventional wisdom in our world, it's all foolishness. See, guys, God said that he turns conventional wisdom on its head and exposes these so-called experts in our culture as a sham. It's important for us to understand this tonight because God's message brings hope, okay? And maybe you found yourself here before. God's message brings hope to the people who are trying to live according to God's plan, yet those who are not living according to this plan seem to be getting more and more ahead, do they not? Kind of seems like they're getting to live the dream, right? They're getting the job. They're getting the promotion. They're getting the victory. They're getting these things. Or are they? See, the gospel message promises that while evil may win some battles, God or good wins the war. There may be some battles that are won. There may be some victories. There may be some difficulties along the way that we wonder, why in the world would God allow that to happen? And the truth is that, yeah, while evil may win some battles, good wins the war. And here's the truth, guys. The things that we see, the things of this world that are physical, and we see all of these things and all these dreams that people are pursuing that look really, really pretty. Anything that is man-made, anything that is man-made. Y'all with me? Anything that is man-made, no matter how amazing it may be, doesn't even compare to God's smallest expression. The magnitude of humanity in all its grandiose buildings and infrastructures and all of those kinds of things pale in comparison to God's smallest little jot or tittle, little expression of his love and the truth about this world. It pales in comparison. I mean, the seven wonders of the world, right? You guys know these? The seven wonders of the world, the Taj Mahal, the Egyptian pyramids, the Great Wall of China, Stonehenge, the Colosseum in Rome. There's this place called Machu Picchu, which is in Peru, which is a city on top of this big mountain that is absolutely fantastic. If you've never seen this thing, go online, check it out tonight. It is amazing what these folks with such a primitive tools and all these things can do. What's crazy, though, is that you look at these massive engineering marvels, man-made, just makes you inspired about humanity to see these things. But you know what? It doesn't even compare to in the morning, there's going to be a new leaf that unfolds on a tree. Can you engineer that? Of all the genius in the world, man's biggest, most awesome structures, engineering marvels pale in comparison to a little leaf that grows and captures the sun, captures water, much less Mount Everest. God did a pretty good job engineering Mount Everest, didn't he? How about the Great Barrier Reef? Check that one out. We try to fabricate these things in fish tanks, you know. It just pales in comparison, does it not? Man's greatest inventions, man's greatest, most remarkable engineering feats pale in comparison to God's smallest. You see, the rags to riches stories that we are so drawn to, that we look at and we go, oh, if that could be me. You have to understand that these rags to riches stories, they pale in comparison to the simplicity of dew falling on a dry ground overnight. He makes dew and then named it dew. You know? Unbelievable. This is the God of all gods, the King of kings and the Lord of lords. The rags to riches stories, they don't even compare. You know, these guys, you can see, man, they're pimping. They've got their clothes on and all that kind of stuff. But have you looked at a robin lately? You see, that just yesterday I was out at my in-laws' land, and overhead were flying these birds, and my father-in-law says, those are the robins that are migrating. And I just thought, really? And it was a bunch of the girl robins, so none of them were pretty. It was weird. I'm just kidding. But he clothes the birds of the field. And that's just his sense of humor, because in, humankind, there's no question who the most beautiful are in the human race, right? But he gives us all a funny laugh by making all of the guys the good-looking ones in the animal kingdoms, and the girls are not. You know? So it kind of maybe, I don't know, it just gives us something to talk about. But guys, these rags to riches stories, they don't even compare. They don't even compare to the smallest little things that God does that are absolutely magnificent. You see, guys, 1 Corinthians 1:25, the foolishness of God is wiser than man's wisdom. The weakness of God is stronger than man's strength. I hope that you will write that down. I hope that you will mark it in your Bibles. I hope that you will put that on your desktop. I hope that you will have it scrolling across, write it on the mirrors of your home, all of these kinds of things. Remember who we serve. The foolishness of God is wiser than man's wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than man's strength. So guys, no matter how you see other people's successes, if they are not in the line of following Jesus Christ and placing God on the throne in which He belongs to be, then please understand something. Oftentimes, the very things you look at and think, if only I could have that, oftentimes those very things have an expiration date. There's going to come a time in which that life ends. But you see, Christ promises a satisfaction that never ends. Christ promises us this. Not just years of satisfaction, not just fun here on this earth, but He promises an eternity of satisfaction that goes far beyond a big house and nice cars and fat bank accounts and all of those kinds of things. It goes far beyond those things that our world tells us that's the goal of life. But see, we haven't even gotten to the cool part of this message. This is the cool message so far, just to understand just how awesome God is that we serve, and He cares about you, and He cares about me. It's amazing. But the cool part is this. So let us rise to our feet again as we read the Word of God and continue on. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 26 through 31. You ready? Brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before Him, because nobody can do it like He can. It is because of Him that you are in Christ Jesus, who has become for us wisdom from God. That is our righteousness, our holiness, and the redemption. Therefore, as it is written, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. Go ahead and have a seat. The cool part is, guys and gals, God chooses us to write the greatest underdog story to have ever been told. He chooses you, He chooses me to write the greatest underdog story ever to have been told. He chooses you and me to rewrite the definition of success, from the accumulation of money and status to the meeting of needs of others through generosity and service. You see, He chooses you and me to rewrite outsourcing parenting children and caring for the elderly, and He calls us to empowering those very special people through the unending love of God that are neglected and cast aside. He chooses us to turn the world from selfish to selfless. He chooses us to influence a country and a globe that exists in a top-down mentality. He chooses us to bring and usher in servant leadership, a new way of doing things. He chooses you and me to redefine what matters most in this world. Isn't that amazing? He chooses us. Who are we? We're nothing. We're a speck on this planet, which is a speck in the universe, and He chooses you. He chooses me to know the numbers of hairs on our heads. He chooses us, guys. This is amazing. This is remarkable. He chooses you and me to redefine how time is best used. He chooses you and me to redefine how money is spent best, how talent is given away, so that our story does not end when we die on this earth or in eternity in paradise. But it continues to live on for generation after generation after generation through God's story that He is writing. We get to be a part of that. You get the opportunity of investing in other people's lives. He chooses you. The one that nobody thought you'd be sitting here tonight. Right? People think back to your teen years. Did they think you'd be here tonight? He chose you. He chooses you and me to prove that while evil may seem to win some battles, good does win in the end. That's a message we get to carry through the story of our lives. And there's no question, guys, there are going to be times, this is the hard truth, there are going to be times that the bad guy gets the girl. You know? The bummer. There's going to be times that that happens. There's going to be times that the bully actually wins the game. There's going to be times that the cook gets, or the crook, not the cook, the cook, easy. No, that the crook gets the promotion. It's going to happen. But make no mistake, this is where it gets really sad, guys. Their pursuit is as good as it's going to get for them. Man, I hope they enjoy the victory. Hope they enjoy the money. I hope they enjoy the success. Because someday all that goes away and it's forgotten forever. They become the eternal armchair quarterback, remembering and talking about the good old days. And you know, guys, it really is sad if you think about that. It changes the way we see people, doesn't it? It changes the way you see people who have cheated you out of things they've cheated you out of. Hope they enjoy their reward now for their labor, because one of these days that expiration date ends and it's over. But you see, guys, this is not the future for us losers who love the Lord. It's not the end of the story. Because Jesus overcame the beatings. Jesus overcame the mocking. Jesus overcame the death. And as 1 Corinthians 1:30 says, He has become for us wisdom from God. That is, He has become our righteousness, our holiness, and our redemption. He's the one that redeems. When all seems lost, He's the one that rescues. He's the one that rides in on the white horse to care for us, little old us. Damsels in distress, if you will, right? He comes to get us. In other words, guys, He takes what people in this world see as nothing. You're not on the tabloids. The Inquirer is not calling your name to put you on the cover so people can read about you in the checkout line at H-E-B. But He chooses you. He chooses you. What many people see as nothing and makes them everything. He chooses us. Christ takes what most people in this world regard as mediocre. Your story is not something to be told on the 10 o'clock news. Your story is not what's told on the Today Show tomorrow morning of what happened over the weekend. Your story, my story, that's not what's being told. But Christ takes what many people regard as mediocre and makes them special. And Paul confirms this. When we get to chapter 2 of 1 Corinthians, Paul then tells your story and he tells my story. And so let me read this. So it was with me, brothers and sisters. When I came to you, I did not come with eloquence or human wisdom as I proclaimed to you the testimony about God. For I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except, I know nothing except I do know this, Jesus Christ and His crucifixion, His death, burial, and resurrection. I came to you in weakness, with great fear and trembling. My message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on human wisdom, but on God's power. Is that not your story? Is that not my story? As you are walking this earth with fear and trembling of what could happen someday, what's going to happen this week in your life? Are there things you're afraid of? You don't have it all figured out. You don't have it all calculated. You don't have it all timed out. But one thing you know, if there's anything you know Jesus Christ is Lord. You know Jesus Christ died, He was buried, and He rose again in order for you to have hope that your story doesn't end the way it is told tonight. That is good news, guys. Seriously, I don't know how you're just sitting there when we say these things. This is absolutely phenomenal. This is beautiful stuff. Because here we sit tonight talking about a guy who was not very good at using his words, but yet we have tons of evidence of God's using this unassuming, crazy guy, honestly, in order to become the most amazing missionary to ever have walked the planet. We're still talking about him tonight. Because his story is your story. And his story is my story. And our story collective is the story that God is writing, that we are privileged to be a part of. He cares about us this deeply. We are privileged to be a part of, so that someday, as we are longing for heaven together, right? We are longing for the day we die, and we get to spend eternity with him. We are longing for that day, and your story doesn't end in that moment. Your story continues. Your story goes on and on into the next generations. You see, guys, this is the story we've been called into. And this is the story of Shane Ellis. This is the story of our dear friend, Shane Ellis, who at one point in his life, he sought joy out of drugs, alcohol, sex, theft, manipulating other people so he wouldn't have to work. This was his story until he gave his life to Christ. And when he gave his life to Christ, he turned the pursuit of satisfaction from temporary to eternal. Do you see what happened there? In one fell swoop, gave his life to Christ. Satisfaction went from temporary, one-upping himself for better feelings and better experiences, only to have to repeat another day. He went from that to eternal satisfaction. This is a story of Aaron Carter, who was set up for the ideal, successful business path. According to the culture in which we live, this is the goal. Until Christ reoriented in his life the definition of success. And now he understands that the greatest contributions to this world may be someone he's raising rather than something he does. This is the story of C.J. Johnson, a thrill seeker on the back of a crotch rocket, which, by the way, today, I'm not sure there's any better days to go ride a motorcycle than today. Absolutely gorgeous. But see, Christ modified, catching it? He modified this thrill seeker, his pursuit of the rush, to God's lasting ride of opening his home to hurting family, to friends, and soon hurting children. This is the story of Ryan Owens and the story of Luke Hawthorne, who have chosen generosity over building bigger barns. We see conventional wisdom would tell these two businessmen that they're crazy, that the choices they make with their finances don't make sense. Doesn't make good business sense. I'm sure they've both heard. But what has happened in their lives as God has continued to pour resources through them, it has impacted numerous families' lives. And they've yet to even hit their stride. You see, guys, each of these people, and I know many of you that are sitting in this room tonight, you have chosen to live unconventionally. You've chosen to move away from what most people in this world define as happiness, what most people in this world define as success, what most people in this world define as bringing satisfaction into your life. You've done something different here, unconventional, in order to allow the power of the Spirit to bring a lasting joy and a lasting success that continues long after you're gone. It's unconventional because God has come to turn the world upside down. You see, guys, the 1980 Olympic hockey team was absolutely phenomenal. And it is a remarkable story. If you've not seen Miracle on Ice or Miracle the movie, check it out, man. Phenomenal movie. Amazing. And you know, this victory that was there, it did motivate a nation to victory. But I want you to understand that Christ choosing you, God choosing you, choosing me, choosing us together, a bunch of nobodies, a bunch of people who, our story is not this huge, glamorous, amazing story. People are not wanting to be us. But him choosing us to tell his story, I promise you this, it'll change the world. Guys, God chooses you to do his greatest work. You see, the world that we live in calls us the underdog, right? Calls us the underdog. We're the one who are the nice people. The Christians who get run over, right? The losers. We call it fighting normal. Because we know the truth. And we know that the truth has genuinely set us free. But guys, tonight I want you to hear more than anything else, God chooses you. Of all people. I know that God has redefined your worth in so many ways. But I hope tonight as you are sitting here, this is a reminder of you, of why you live the life you live. This is why you choose to fight the norms. This is why you do what you do. Because God is writing a story that is far bigger than you, that is far bigger than me, that is far bigger than us altogether, but we get the privilege of getting to be a part of it. And so will you please allow Him to redefine the truth about the world in which we live through you?